This story was sent to me by one of my subscribers, Emily Rogers, and I wanted to share it on the channel. On July 8th, 2007, I experienced what was probably the most terrifying moment of my entire life, narrowly missing a terrorist attack in India, running from a mugger on a desolate street in New York City, getting dangerously close to a wild crocodile in Australia, and encountering armed gang members in Camden, New Jersey, had nothing on what I faced that eerie summer afternoon. I have now visited every national park, forest, memorial, and monument in the United States, but back in 2007, I had not yet explored Washington's North Cascades National Park. A friend and I were on a road trip through the Pacific Northwest when we decided to make our way there. The North Cascades is a place of devastating beauty and one of the few parks with no roads at all. You have to hike in. It's an incredibly remote area, one of the least visited parks in the continental United States, second only to Isle Royale in Michigan. Needless to say, there was nobody else around. Mistake number 1. The main hiking trail entrance was miles away from the visitor center, and the sun would set in just 2 hours. We didn't have time for an extensive hike into the woods. There had to be some sort of shortcut, right? Our navigation software, DeLorme, marked every road in America, even old, abandoned, unpaved ones, so we decided to put it to the test. Scouring the laptop, we searched for the quickest way to reach the park boundary before sunset. After some digging, we found a barely visible gravel road just off the main highway. The GPS indicated it was an unpaved forest path that would lead to a side road, taking us within half a mile of the park. From there, we could simply walk. Mistake number 2. The gravel road was so obscure that it appeared only on a few maps. The side road leading deeper into the forest was even more hidden. I can't find it on any map today, but that day, it appeared on our screen. And it was our only option. The GPS suggested some kind of road existed, even if it hadn't been maintained in decades. When we reached the supposed location, there was nothing visible. Where was this side road? Had the map been wrong? Looking closer, we spotted an overgrown gravel path swallowed by tall grass and bushes taller than our car. That was it, or at least what used to be a road. Against our better judgment, we decided to drive down it. Even though our rented sedan had no business being there, we slowly pushed forward through the brush, dodging trees and crushing branches beneath the car. Mistake number 3. After 15 minutes of this reckless drive, we reached a dead end. It was an old campground buried beneath towering trees, the picnic tables rotting and covered in moss. The forest was so dense that it felt like dusk, even though there was still an hour of daylight left. Determined not to get lost, we carried our laptop with us to track our movements as we hiked toward the park boundary. There was no trail, no clear landmarks, only the endless wall of trees. If our GPS failed, we were stranded miles from civilization and far from our car. But it was only a half-mile walk, right? What could go wrong? The scenery was breathtaking, but the atmosphere grew increasingly eerie. The trees thickened until our GPS lost its signal completely. That device had worked all over the world, even in the remote ice fields of Antarctica. But here, in this forest, it was useless. As the sun sank lower, panic started to creep in. Still, we pushed forward. We were so close to the park boundary. If we could just make it there, everything would be fine. The roar of nearby whitewater rapids drowned out every sound. We had to shout to hear each other. We had no machete, no hiking boots, no real gear, just two fools lost in the wilderness. Finally, the GPS flickered back to life for a moment and confirmed we had crossed into the park. We cheered in relief. That celebration ended in an instant. A deep, earth-shaking growl erupted just a few feet in front of us, so loud it overpowered the rushing river. It was the most powerful animal sound I had ever heard, louder even than the bellow of a whale I once stood beside in Antarctica. Whatever made that sound was close. Very close. We froze, squinting into the darkness. My friend whispered, "It's over." There, crouched low among the shadows, was a massive mountain lion, its glowing eyes locked on us. We were deep in its territory, miles from safety, completely vulnerable. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it over the river. There was no negotiating with a 200-pound predator. We began to back away slowly. Every instinct screamed to run, but we knew that sudden movement could trigger it to chase. Still, panic won. We turned and bolted through the forest, crashing through the undergrowth, branches ripping at our clothes. I didn't care about the poison ivy I'd carefully avoided earlier. I just wanted out. For reasons I still don't understand, the mountain lion never chased us. Maybe it already had a kill nearby. Maybe it was just warning us. Or maybe something greater was watching over us that day. We ran until the GPS came back to life and announced, "Turn right on Route 20. That robotic voice had never sounded so beautiful. Exhausted and trembling, we followed the signal back to the car. When we finally reached it, we collapsed inside, drenched in sweat and disbelief. That day changed me. Since then, I've traveled to every corner of American soil, collecting stories, but none as chilling as that summer evening in the North Cascades. Thank you to Emily Rogers for sending this terrifying story. If you have a story, send it in. It might be featured next. This story was sent to me by one of my subscribers, Sarah Mitchell, and I wanted to share it on the channel. I don't exactly know where to begin, but I suppose this all really started before I was even born. My birth set into motion a series of events that led to a threat on my life, one completely beyond my control. Before I existed, my mother, Jane, had helped an older man named James when she was in her mid-teens. He adored her deeply, but he wasn't of the same religion. Eventually, she married a man from her congregation instead, leaving James heartbroken. About a year after marrying my father, Dave, my mother gave birth to me. But soon after, she realized she was unhappy and decided to contact James again, hoping to return to him. One night, she packed a bag, took me with her, and left. When she arrived at James's house, she was met with a flood of messages from my father, threatening to take full custody of me if she didn't come back. Torn between love and motherhood, she chose me, and that choice would unknowingly set off years of terror. She returned to my father, but their marriage crumbled again within a year. They divorced, and my mother moved south to live with family, leaving James behind completely. For the next 13 years, life was fairly normal. We moved houses a few times. She remarried, I gained a few siblings, and then her second marriage fell apart. Once again, my mother was single. It was 2010 when everything changed. My mother had just discovered Facebook. Being newly single and suddenly in touch with her old high school friends, she quickly rekindled a few nostalgic romances. Nothing lasted until she found him again. James. He had a Facebook account, barely active, no profile picture, but my mom was certain it was him. She reached out, and almost immediately they fell back into their old obsession. Soon he came down south to visit and even stayed for my 16th birthday party. He looked to be in his 50s now, with shaved gray hair, balding on top, glasses, and a creepy grin that made my skin crawl. Still, he seemed harmless enough at first. So why am I even telling this story? Because when my mom left him for the third time, everything changed. That's when the madness began. James started showing up at our house uninvited. For a while, the visits became less frequent, and we thought maybe he'd finally moved on. But then the letters started arriving, hand-delivered. And it was the contents of those letters that made our blood run cold. He wrote about how if my mother had never met my father, they could have been happy together. He said that my birth had ruined everything, that I had stolen his future. He confessed that he had a plan to get her back, but it had been ruined by my existence. Then came the worst part. James admitted that a near-miss car accident my mother had back in 1995, when I was just a baby, was no accident at all. A car had clipped hers at an intersection, and she'd always assumed it was bad luck. But in his letters, he claimed responsibility. He said it had been him, that he had tried to kill us both back then, and that this time he wouldn't miss. He told her he still believed they could be together, but only if I was taken out of the picture. At first, we didn't want to believe it, but the next letter confirmed he was escalating. He said he had contacted social services and told them my mom was a drunk, so they would take me away. It was easy to disprove, but it showed how far he was willing to go. Then came the final letter, the one that sent us straight to the police. He said he was going to burn the house down with us inside. If I can't have her, he wrote, no one else will. When the police investigated, they discovered something horrifying. An ex-girlfriend of James, who happened to share my mother's first name, already had a restraining order for him for stalking and attempted arson. Once we learned this, we were put on high alert, and my mother began the process of filing for her own restraining order. Only a few nights later, my mom heard someone outside the house. She immediately called the police. They arrived within minutes and searched the entire street. They didn't find James, but his car was parked behind the garages at the end of the road. He never returned to it that night. The next morning, the police contacted a women's shelter in a neighboring county. They had one room available, so we packed our bags and left everything behind. That summer, I lived in hiding. No friends, no social media, no outside contact. Or at least, that's what was supposed to happen. Using a proxy server on the computer in the teen recreation room, I secretly logged into Facebook. It was a stupid decision, one I regret to this day. Almost immediately, James began messaging me. He played nice at first, telling me how much he loved my mom and just wanted to make sure she was okay. I ignored him and blocked his account. Then came the fake profiles, dozens of them, all trying to get close to me. I blocked them too. After 3 months, the police finally found us a new house. We were allowed 1 week to return to our old place and pack up what was left of our lives. Then we disappeared again. 8 years passed. I moved several times, built a new life, and almost forgot about the man who had once wanted me dead just to be with my mother. But 2 years ago, I moved back up north, not far from my birthplace. And 2 weeks ago, I received an email on an old account I hadn't used in years. It looked like a rental agreement. I almost deleted it as spam. But when I opened it, my heart stopped. The name at the top was James Smith, and the rental address was only 1 town away. That sick man had given my email to the renters just so I would know he was nearby, watching me. I haven't heard from him since, but every time I walk alone at night, I can't shake the feeling that he's still out there, waiting for another chance. Thank you to Sarah Mitchell for sending this chilling story. If you have a story, send it in. It might be featured next.